Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
As the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series winds down with a champion all but crowned, there is still plenty of challenges to keep the drivers on their toes. After a doubleheader in the land of the rising sun, the drivers land back in familiar soil and a staple of IndyCar racing. Welcome to the Alabama roller coaster. This is the MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpot TV for coverage of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makes a premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, not joined by Justin Prince tonight, instead joined by a veteran of this Dallara IR18, Adam Crane. We'll talk more about this car in a couple of moments' time, though. Let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show. And Adam, what a great venue to welcome you to RaceSpot TV in the commentary booth, because this is a quintessential IndyCar track. Commitment, technique, it's got it all. Should be quite an intriguing challenge as well for them as we build through the course of this day. Here's a look at that next level racing schedule, really winding down how this year has flown by. We were talking about that also before we went live. Has very much been a year that has blinked past, especially with the domination that we have seen from the one and only Philip Kraus. Quick look then at that butt kicker driver standings, because yes, there is a dominant champion that is waiting to be crowned. Philip Kraus now more than 200 points clear of Alexander Van der Sant, but a fun little fight brewing behind with 3 power slide drivers second on back. Adam Block will be missing in action until that final double points round at Auto Club, so expect him to slide backwards. The likes of Connor Harrington, Matt Taylor and many more will be looking to charge forward here. So scrolling over to the HyperX Team Championships, and well, for Private Label Team Hype, they've led this one since the start of 2021 with the dominance that they've had in this championship going back to that start of last year. It's been a great run for them in this car, Adam.
Absolutely. The Private Label Team Hype guys showing out in true full force like they have been all year, and even starting with the tail end of last year. Philip obviously is leading the charge in the championship and also leading the way in the team standings as well. Powerslide definitely still licking at their heels, but as you said, looks like it might just be all well and done.
Yeah, now I think more focusing on 2023. Behind them, Synergy Motorsports have jumped in front of Powerslide Ignition. 2 teams battling for third with a bit of separation to Madworks Motorsports, and now the 2-man Ascari Autosport after Barrett Rolfe dropped out midway through 2021. Plenty of intrigue through the course of this championship. And with a runaway rookie driver in the overall championship, it's no surprise as we turn our attention to the butt kicker rookie standings that Phil Kraus leads here as well. Caleb Benty has been one to watch, but the likes of Matthias Kraus have had a blockbuster summer. But I think one driver that you and I, Adam, have seen compete in open setup competitions and figure out this car in a way that maybe you don't have to do in this series is Andrew Marquez and the Alcantech NHR Esports machine.
Yeah, Andrew's a skilled guy. It's exciting to see that he's performing well in the Lionheart IndyCar series. Obviously, I'm sure he'd like to be up a little higher in the standings, but for sure it's good to see someone of his caliber performing well in this series.
So look at all of the championships. Now we turn our attention to the Gomez Sim Industry series details. It is Season 10 of this Lionheart Racing Series, IndyCar Series. In year 9 of the Lionheart Racing Series, we're campaigning the latest American open-wheel machine, the Dallara IR18, with a custom fixed setup built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella, front and rear anti-roll bars to play with when it comes to these road courses. Prize and cash have gone from just over $7,000 in 2021 to over $10,000 in 2022. It's a nice old championship, and with plenty of support from the sponsors, our season champion will walk away with the Gomez Sim Industries Formula Pro Elite trim, as well as a next level racing GT tracked cockpit. Of course, just one final Triple Crown double points race. That will be our final one as we look to crown a new series champion and likely celebrate the defending team champions. But when we talk about Triple Crown races, there's a different type of pressure when you go for a longer race, Adam, and you put double points on the line.
For sure, those double points races mean a lot for the championship and also for bragging rights, because typically they're associated with a bigger prize and a bigger event. So no slouch here, though, that at the Barber Motorsports Park is one of the most fun tracks that we have in the IndyCar and on the iRacing service. So I think everyone's going to be looking at what they've got right here and trying to do the best they can today.
A look at your MOZA Racing event details. In just the 4th trip for this series in 10 seasons to this Alabama roller coaster, and only 5 drivers have led laps in the 3 previous races. Pole position has converted twice. The other time, a winner emerged from the outside of the front row. We've already seen cautions previously this year and automatic cautions thrown through the chaos at Watkins Glen. Will we see another one with this track known for precarious starts, both in the real world and the sim as well? Margins of victory, well, you've got either spectrum, the closest being just over 0.6 of a second, the largest, Adam Blocker a year before that, 52 seconds. It has been a while since we've raced here, but I think then for some of the rookies, it helps level the playing field, Adam, because they're competing with a fixed setup that maybe the drivers from last year have less knowledge about compared to some of the other tracks.
Yeah, it's definitely a track that requires a lot of skill and patience, especially on throttle. There's only one real heavy braking zone, which is into Charlotte's Web, so making sure that you're maintaining your rolling speeds and hitting your braking points right, even if they are just a shorter brake, those are really important and takes a lot of experience in order to nail.
So qualifying is underway. Unlike the ovals, where it's 5 minutes and 2 laps, drivers get 10 minutes and 4 laps. But crucially, the track is to themselves, so no distractions, no draft to really be worrying about. But as it runs right now, it's Connor Harrington with a 108.328, the provisional benchmark. Have to wait and see how it trends so far with just 7 times on the board. We were also discussing this, the weather conditions. It's quite toasty. Of course, iRacing Day, middle of May in this virtual Barber Motorsports Park. There's plenty of winds as well. It's a challenging conditions for these drivers to be dealing with, Adam.
Absolutely. They're going to be dealing with some super high track temperatures, among the highest that we'll actually see anywhere on the iRacing service. And there's a mega crosswind out of the southeast that's going to hamper them and make the car really, really sketchy in a couple really important corners that are important for lap time and also keeping the car out of the wall. So it'll be exciting to see how they deal with that here today.
In terms of passing, let's talk about the track a little bit more before we get to qualifying as more times get thrown on the board. Passing opportunities. I think the best one, of course, is setting up out of turn 2, that long hairpin that builds you up over the crest and then into turn 5. But you can pounce on opportunities at other points in the lap, and especially out of turn 5 if someone makes a mistake. Watch for someone to try something into turn 7.
Absolutely. Charlotte's Web is easily the best passing opportunity on the track. The long run out of turn 2, like you said, deep, heavy braking zone, and the only part on the track where you get into any kind of threshold braking, turn 6 is easily the best, but there's moves into turn 15, the last complex of corners, as well as if you really nail Charlotte's Web, even into Museum Corner, turn 7, 8, and 9 as well.
So here comes John Badefer. Adam was thinking that maybe John would be one of the favorites here today, but see how it trends. Matt Taylor jumps to 4th. Badefer actually invalidated his first flying attempt, so we'll have to try and avoid pushing the limits a little bit too far. Matthias Kraus continuing that momentum through the summer, jumps up to 3rd, but we're still waiting for the likes of Kraus, Alexander Van der Sant, and maybe a couple of others to throw lap times on the board. But at a track as technical as this, it's not a big shock to see deltas upwards of 1 second splitting 14 cars.
For sure, and it's not super easy to get an off track here unless you're trying to really push the exit of Museum or even the entry Museum as you roll over the curbing. But definitely you want to try to maximize your runs here with only 4 laps running. You got to make sure those front tires, which are the trickiest tire to warm up, are up to temp, and that you don't overheat the rears before getting the fronts up to temperature. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the drivers here are able to manage that difficulty and who will put their car in pole position and end up being close to victory.
Connor Harrington making his 90th career start today, still sits on pole, but Andrew Kinsella was hyping up his chances of getting to the front of the field in qualifying, currently outside of the front row, where of course a winner has emerged once before. Still waiting for the likes of Phil Kraus, Badefer to get lap times forward. Badefer's burned 2 laps already, is on to lap 3. Last time was a 1:14, definitely not representative. I wonder what's going on in that 67 as Jason Brophy, maybe a little bit more adept on the ovals, but he works his way into the top 10.
Yeah, John's first lap there was definitely a primer lap for the front tires. This should be a real good flyer here, and he's only going to have one more shot up to this, so we'll see what he can do here as he rolls through turn 9, through Museum, and now one of the back straight. Mega important to nail this complex here. Fastest part of the track.
Phil Kraus goes 3rd as Badefer flies into the S's. So chaos here in the BMW Sim GT Cup. Not expecting as much of that, but this is really where rear tires are going to be tested as we work through the course of potentially 20-lap fuel windows. All drivers on the red alternate tire in qualifying. Van der Sant roars to 2nd in the 96 machine. Here comes Badefer, still one of the final contenders yet to put in a benchmark. It's a 108.329. It's 1,000th off the pace. The front row basically identical out on track.
Just as predicted, John coming in with a hot lap there. Going to try for a second here. The tires might not have reached their, or might have had their best already. But Connor's sticking tough here with only 1,000th of a second between him and John.
Oh, but that might be his qualifying done. A little bit wide on the exit of turn 2, and Harrington, who was starting the third lap, will try and reset. I don't know if he's actually going to be able to do another one.
Yeah, it looks like he just cut the grass a little bit on the exit of turn 3, and that just caught the car and put him into the wall. Oh!
There he is.
There he is.
Phil Krause with a 1:08.1. It's not even close. It's 0.2 of a second that sees Phil Krause once again get to the front of the field.
Stop. This might be a recording.
Yeah.
What a lap by Phil there.
It does feel like deja vu, doesn't it?
I mean, Phil, I've raced against Phil for many, well, I'd say many years. We started originally in R-Factor 2, and he was a killer back then, but he's driving on another level these days, especially in the IndyCar and in this Lionheart IndyCar series.
It's a run of podiums that stretches back to the start of this year. Has not finished off the podium in every race he's attempted. It's a remarkable run. Look at the commitment as he throws himself in towards the S's. Bensi up into 5th. Was that a bit wide from Krause? Saves the car, but did he invalidate the lap time? He'll try what is a tricky pit entry and really test the limits of the car. But as Betafor gets second, it is once again Phil Krause on pole.
Outrageous job by Phil again, by more than 1/10 of a second to John, but fantastic job by that whole top 5 or 6 there to be only within half a second of each other.
Yeah, it should be fun because Dirty Air is going to be crucial here. 4th through, what's it, 8th, split by 1/10 of a second there. Fraser will jump up to 11th with just under 80 seconds left to play in the Go Fast time here at the Barber Motorsports Park. Take a look at that rundown and you see how it dips down out of view before climbing back up into that final sequence of corners. Crucial time in qualifying. Larkamp will jump up to 8th as Harrington also tries pit entry. We'll talk more about this because it's not just pit entry which is difficult, Adam. It's pit exit as well.
Absolutely. And cold tires in the IndyCar is difficult enough, let alone one where you have to dip, the track dips down and then rolls back up over the hill. It's super easy to overdrive the corner on exit, and that can lead to a number of issues. And full disclosure, I've crashed here on pit exit here a couple times, so it's difficult as all hell for sure.
It's a bit of a rite of passage. Joshua Chin very late to join the session now with 24 seconds left. Don't think he's going to get the okay, well, it's irrelevant because...
It's irrelevant.
Yep, Joshua Chin has done Joshua Chin things and unfortunately crashed on the only attempt he would have had. He's going to be starting from the back along with Alex Guyon, who has an end-of-line penalty, but with a smaller field, just 25 cars getting ready to go. It's not going to be the hardest task in the world for Joshua Chin, someone who likes to fuel save, to try and make something happen for 53 laps here at the Alabama roller coaster. We're ready to go though. This season is winding down. 22 rounds. It's round 18. We're ready to go for the MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries. Let's take you trackside. Let's run you down through today's butt kicker starting grid. And for the 11th time in 28 races, Philip Krause once again finds himself at the front in qualifying. It's a 1:08.110 that gets him that front row. It's not the fastest lap this series has seen by 2 full seconds, but it's a flyer, that's for sure. John Betafor will be on his outside and looking to challenge on the run into turn 1, while Connor Harrington and Alexander Van Asant fighting for second in this championship line up on row number 2. Andrew Marquez continues the impressive run along with Caleb Bensi on row 3, while behind them it's Andrew Kinsella, the Canadian, up in qualifying for once with Matthias Krause alongside. Stefan Larkamp and Tyler Graf bookend the top 10 with Kite Bommersbach and Matt Taylor right behind them. Adam Fraser in the black and white number 12, 13th with Bradley Sexton for company. Robert Malechka had done no practice before today, and well, maybe it shows a little bit. He's down in 15th with Brian Beard alongside. Lionel Callisto 17th sees Jason Brophy to his right-hand side. Matt Houston and Paul Jenkins complete the top 20 with 1.3 seconds splitting those 20 cars. Mitchell Riggs for Ascari Autosport back in 21st. Joe Branch, the final car with a lap time on the board, will start 22nd with Joshua Chin. Plenty of work to do for him. Alex Guyon, Tony Showen will line up at the very tail end of this field. So it's a 53-lap race with a fuel window about 20 laps or so we're not necessarily going to be talking about too much fuel saving. But Adam, it does throw up a lot of questions about what do you do in terms of tires with drivers required to use both the primary and the alternate compound for one green flag lap.
Absolutely. When you flip to the primary or alternate tire, depending on the strategy you want to be on for fuel or track position, is going to be mega important for these drivers. When you pit as well, depending on the track conditions, is going to play a part as well. When you roll to those alternate tires, if it cools down a little bit, if it gets a little bit more overcast, and some cloud cover develops, that'll help the alternate tires last a little bit longer. So it'll be a real challenge here for the drivers to manage when to box and what tire to put on. It'll be an exciting race for sure.
We've got an interesting battle of compounds to talk about in a moment, but as the cars roll for a full pace lap, plenty of opportunity for them to get heat into the tires. Definitely something that they'll be looking forward to. Quick rundown through your featured onboard cameras, starting with Matthias Kraus, who rides with Butt Kicker. Sim racing is better with Butt Kicker. Visit thebuttkicker.com. In front of him in fifth, Andrew Marquez rides with Next Level Racing. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. And of course, the joys of virtual racing, onboard cameras through the entirety of the field and cameras placed wherever we would like. We've got flexibility in that. Starting compounds up on the left side of your screen, and inside of the top 5, 2 drivers are gambling and starting on the primaries. What's your thought on this call for Connor Harrington and Van der Sant, Adam?
You know what? I like it a lot. Phil and John clearly in qualifying had quite a bit of pace, so you're going to have to do something a little bit different if you're sitting a little bit further back. Even you can see, starting with really the 10th place car on through back, a lot of drivers are using the primary tire. Obviously, that's with the intention of trying to roll with the alternate tire a little bit later when the track cools down. The tire is able to last a little bit longer, and it's so difficult to pass here that if you're able to hold off the faster cars in the alternate tire for even the first half of the stint or third of the stint, then you'll be clear sailing the rest of the way and you'll be able to make up time.
Last time the car or the series ran here was back in season 8, so we've had a couple of years, but the fastest lap was set back in season 7 pre-aero screen. Adam, when you think about how much this car has changed since the end of 2019, it's crazy to think about how much it's developed.
Oh, it's crazy. The weight of the aero screen, the way the tires run now compared to where they were back in 2019, a massively different car. Still one of the funnest cars on iRacing, but definitely still going to be a challenge here for these drivers.
Let's be real, we're a bit biased. We think this is the best car on iRacing, and to be fair, there has been a lot of...
I was being fair.
Yes, no, we try to be fair, but there's been a lot of acclaim about it. We've seen it across some of the top-level sim racing series as well. This is one of the premier IndyCar series. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries. Great start from Phil Kraus, but Betafor under pressure from Harrington, who fires up the primary compounds immediately. He'll slot into line as the top 6 single file themselves out through turns 1 and 2. Malechka runs wide in the battle for 15th or so position, but they dive down through the hill and crest themselves in the run towards turn number 5. It's Phil Kraus that leads them into Charlotte's Web.
Really important there that all the drivers in the top 5 saved any push to pass. Nobody burned any. Wow. Lots of action here coming out of Charlotte's Web. Everyone trying to make up spots where they can.
That was Kinsella with the almighty send under the brakes. He's worked his way past Caleb Benson, who thought about trying to fight back on the run down the hill through turn 7, but got to be careful. The curbing is there to be used, but if you bottom your car out, you are in for a bit of a ride through the flip-flop S's and then in towards the place where dirty air is surely going to be most prevalent, down through the S's. Betafor on the charge. Harrington feeling the disparity in tires as the primary struggle for grip in the early stages. As we complete lap number 1, it'll be Phil Kraus that leads from John Betafor, with Harrington, Van der Sant and Marquez the top 5, but really not much movement on the opening lap.
John and Phil are in tough here, trying to run away from Connor, and Alex just a little bit, but not wanting to use up too much tire. It's a really, really tricky compromise, and you got Connor and Alex back there on the primary tires just thinking, come on, just gotta get temp, just trying everything they can to induce a little understeer, try to get the tires just warmed up, especially those fronts. It's easy to overheat or bring temperature in on the rear tires. It's all about those front tires right now for those in top 5.
And while Harrington has a bit of clean air by virtue of maybe coordinating on the start a little bit better with Phil Krause, Van der Sande has already built up the train behind him. Marquez, Kinsella, Benzi, and Matthias Krause, just to name a few. Maybe we see a bit of coordination between the two Powerslide Motorsports teammates in the early stages of this one. Attention over to the RaceSpot TV replay machine. Most cars getting through safely does not mean all cars, and while Andrew Kinsella had the almighty send down the inside, it was further back where some trouble was brewing. We see from up above, not necessarily the best of angles, but I think Adam Fraser had a little bit of a moment as they ran down in towards turn 2.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, that's just 100% cold tires rolling off the side of the road there. Good thing that he was able to keep the car. Oh, a little bit of a hip check there.
That was
just getting turned.
Yeah, Matt Houston. I think also partially left sides on the grass, but big impact, and he's towed. A couple of cars I think will be out of this one. Lionel Callisto, the most recent victim. Tony Schowen has just taken a trip to pit lane of his own. I think maybe thinking of a park and start, and that's Lionel Callisto just running very wide through the penultimate corner.
Easy to do on cold tires. You just lose where you are on track a little bit. Those fronts don't bite at all, and you just roll right off the side of the road. Good that he was able to keep it together and not lose any more time or even hit the pit entry by accident.
Yeah, I've done that one, that's for sure. As Malechka gets past Taylor, he's up 3 spots, one of the bigger movers. But Josh Chin, no surprise to see him up 6 spots into 17th, so plenty of work for him to do. But we look rearwards from Alexander Van der Sande. 1.7 adrift from Connor Harrington. So while Harrington has been able to very much secure a spot on the podium for the time being, Van der Sande struggling. Up front, bit of separation, 0.8 of a second. How much dirty air will these drivers be feeling, Adam? Because you and I were talking about the setup before we went live. There is plenty of downforce on this car.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the front wicker is going to add a lot of handling through the faster sections of the track, which is where you'd normally feel a lot of that dirty air. Honestly, this race is going to come down, I think, mostly to tires and seeing how the selection plays moving forward. John isn't going to like being behind Phil here a lot. Phil's not going to care too much, but John's going to do his best here just to sort of stay close enough, use the draft where he can, and maintain the position within a second to a second and a half, not drop any back any further than that, and then try to make something happen at the stops with an overcut or undercut, or maybe even traffic, depending on how far they're able to get here in the stint.
This is such a mentally demanding track in the sim. In real world, it's going to be physically demanding in so many ways as well. But I think physical demands is something we don't talk about enough in the sim. We watched Caleb Benzi and Matthias Krause dueling for 7th spot with Stefan Laukamp riding behind them in the Alcantech NHR esports machine. But with the advent of how sim racing equipment has developed, Adam, and you're seeing this firsthand with your new role with advanced sim racing, but with the amount of force that you have to put into the pedals, the amount of force that these wheels can throw back at you, you can be drained, you can be sweating by the time you finish a 90-minute race here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Man, with some of the equipment that's available now, you could be sweating after a 15-minute race, let alone an hour race or 90-minute race. The amount of force that the wheels can put out really just make you work for the time if you have it set up that way. I know coming from lesser equipment like the Logitech equipment, moving up to Fanatec, and now with my VRS wheelbase, huge difference in wheel force. You get your heart rate up, you get your mental focus up. You're an absolute swamp by the time the race is over. And at a track like Barber, there's no let up. You're pretty much the entire race turning one direction or the other. You need to be picture perfect with your marks, where you're braking, where you're turning. So there's no let up in this track, which makes it one of the most fun tracks that we have on the service and to drive with I keep saying the IndyCar. It's an outstanding track, but in the IndyCar, it just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and yeah, the unfortunate thing is this track just does not get used enough by anything big enough compared to IndyCar. So we very much associate this as a home of IndyCar within the US. Look at the train that's formed behind Van der Sande. You now got 5 cars stacked up behind him, continuing to bleed time to Connor Harrington. Now 2.7 the delta between these cars, and well, it's the frustrating thing about racing at Barber sometimes. You might think you're faster, but eventually there will come that crossover point, especially with the track conditions the way they are, where Van der Zandt's tires will just simply be better than those behind him. Again, we take a look, it's down to 41 degrees Celsius, and if anything, it will cool off from here. So the gamble to start on the black mark tires will pay off later for Van der Zandt and Harrington by the time they get to the final stint with cooler temperatures and the ability to push harder.
Yeah, and the drivers behind Alex Van der Zandt are in a little bit of a tough spot because they don't want to push their tires too hard to overwork them by the time they reach sort of that crossover point where the alternates become worse than the primaries. And Alex Van der Zandt's perfectly happy running where he is, knowing that it's only a matter of time before they get to that point, and then he's going to be able to walk away from everybody. But the issue is that at some point during the race, Van der Zandt's going to have to put on the alternate tires too, and then the roles will switch.
There's another one for the King of Chins, up to 15th as he dispatches Adam Fraser in clinical fashion. Not really a fight put up by either of them. Side by side for a moment, down into 7, and that's a big old wobble for Matt Taylor, or rather, Bomber's back in front of him. Taylor locks up the left front, trying to avoid running into the back of him. You can run side by side through turn 7. I found out myself back in 2020, the last time the series visited here. It's not always the wisest move. We'll leave it at that.
No, and we've seen lots of drivers, even just by themselves, make mistakes where they take a little bit too much speed, roll over the curb a little too hard, and put themselves in the wall. So rolling through their side by side is definitely an adventurous proposition, but it's a good thing that they both cut each other slack and were able to get through okay.
Yeah, we watched this entire sequence. It started with Malechka getting maybe escorted wide very slightly on the run down in through turn 3, then on board with Matt Taylor, and you just see the moment. Good car control. It was actually Bomber's back that locks up that left front, but my word, that's some great car control on display. Here comes Taylor, though, to the inside as they work down into 5. Chin behind, goes past Bradley Sexton as well. Plenty of action outside of the top 10.
Doesn't look like Bomber's back's going to give this one up. Oh, actually, no, he's actually doing the smart thing here, realizing that the position's lost, giving it up, but he's got the King of Chins behind him now, so we'll see how he reacts to this.
Yeah, I think Josh Chin at the very least is expecting maybe a top 10. It would not discount him from a top 5. He's only 8 seconds away from that 5th spot as it runs right now, and as soon as he gets past the lap traffic, we'll find out how much fuel saving he wants to do. A little bit of a train now behind Tyler Graf, who is 3 seconds behind Stefan Larkamp. That's what you have at the Barber Motorsports Park. Battle packs building, and maybe with a smaller field, we don't have to worry so much about lap traffic, but as Phil Krause works out of turn 3, the final straggle is still trying to funnel through those final sequence of corners.
Yeah, it looks like we've got right about a 30-second gap from Phil in P1 to Alex Guyan in P22, so I don't think it's going to be too much longer before we're going to have to worry about some lap traffic here, though the gaps between the guys in the back is a little bit larger. I also want to point out Josh Chin has done all this work on the primary tire. He's literally ripping through this field. It'll be interesting to see what he can do, maybe even scratch in the top 6, depending on how his stints go here on the alternate tires as well.
He has burned through 3 of the 10 push-to-passes that he'll get. Maybe not such a consideration. I always think it's tough with the way that iRacing has modeled the push-to-passes in usages rather than seconds to deploy effectively here at Barber, because as soon as you lift a certain amount, you deactivate it, and let's be real, straights are quite short here, Adam.
Yeah, there's not too many places where you can effectively use the...
Van der Zandt off in trouble. And still lining up the rear tires. Doesn't look like there's damage, but not for the first time today. I think we've had a spinner through the final corner.
Yeah, again, just looks like he got on the grass a little bit. Not all that different from what Connor did in qualifying. It's so tricky here. You want to maximize your entries as much as you can, but you're half a foot off onto the grass and you're looped. So really unfortunate there for Alex. I'm sure he'll be pretty upset with that, but he's still sitting there in a pretty good spot, so we'll have to try to gather it up and get as many positions back as he can.
Yeah, if you want an example of how easy it is to do that, Alex Guyon made the very same mistake way ago, and that's why he's down the order, just right sides on the grass, and actually gets a little bit of prong there from Lionel Kalisto into the left rear suspension rather. So Van der Zandt was struggling to hold on with primary tires. I think we should point that out now. In front of Malechka, so at least a teammate who may not push him as hard as some others will do.
Championship rival, though. I'm not sure. I'm not in the Power Slide Discord, so I'm not sure exactly how much communication there is in a situation where there's prizes and
it's a good question.
Respect on the line.
I actually don't know myself. I have, especially with open wheels coming up in November, tried to stay as far away from some of the more serious channels as possible. Kalisto off of pit road, stay way out of harm's way as we watch this battle for 9th on back. If anything, I think Van der Sant's issue is going to make it harder for Josh Chin to work forward with the same efficiency that he's been able to do so far, because we know Van der Sant does have the pace as well. Maybe Chin in the 96, the 93 and the 96 rather, will end up just squabbling amongst the two of them.
Yeah, it definitely is going to compress this little battle pack here a little bit closer, and that's not what Josh is going to want. In order to really move forward, what you want is you want the gaps between cars to be wide enough that you can pick them off and not have to worry about the car ahead having draft interference or dirty air interference in the car ahead of them. So definitely not ideal for Josh, but we'll have to see here if he can figure out some kind of alternate strategy as we see Alex pit.
I wonder if there's damage or if this is maybe just his call to try and get off the primary compound and switch to what is expected to be the preferred alternate, because on lap 12 this is very much within the window to get to the end from here, especially if you can do a little bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, you have to split the rest of the race up into two more stops, but you can definitely make it from here, like you said, with a little bit of fuel saving. This should buy Alex a little bit of clean air, although, as we said before, we're going to have to be real careful here on the outlap. Build the front tire temp up pretty quickly, but softly, gently. And we'll see if he can make some headway here, gain back some of the time that he lost with that spin.
Feels like a contradiction in some ways, doesn't it? The art of tire warming. You need to do it gently but aggressively enough at the same time. Another car with issues, Paul Jenkins down through the S's, and now just on the weight transfer, losing it. And you ride on board and you always just watch the hands and you just think there's only so much you can do when the car goes loose here, and it happens as he compresses down through the hill.
Yeah, that's quite an odd one. It almost looks like it's a bar, any roll bar issue, like he might have been running with a little too much rear instead of softer front. Stiffer front, but definitely not ideal. You don't want to be spinning anywhere with such a fast lap time. Only about 68, 69 seconds. You can't really afford to lose any time by going wide or having spins, so really unfortunate there. But again, tons of time to make up. Time in the race that you lose, so we'll see what they can do from here.
Saw Joe Branch to have a similar issue there, but locked it down a little bit quicker. Did have to take to the grass. We ride on board with Kinsella, the 41 machine, putting the pressure onto the New York native Andrew Marquez. Now these cars 12 seconds adrift from the leaders. Haven't checked in with them, but Betafer has been holding steady at about 1 second. Not getting too close for dirty air, but also not letting Kraus relieve himself of any of that pressure. The deeper you go in this queue, Adam, how bad is the dirty air that the likes of Matthias Kraus will be dealing with? Because you ride with Kinsella, you can see him trying to put some clean air on the nose, but it's definitely not as bad as it could be. Oh!
Who was that?
Larkamp lights up the rear tires. Has he kept it out of the wall?
I think I see some front wing damage there on the left-hand side. He might have just caught a little bit of the front, but around here where the front wing's so important, he might need to box early to get that changed.
It was why I was wondering as well, were we going to see Van der Sant come in? Yeah, he's stricken. Chin bullies his way past as well, and now was it lighting up the rear tires, or was it again just grass tires not mixing well? As he tries to recover his way around, we take a look, and it's tidy until it's not.
It's a nasty cocktail, rubber and grass. The lead doesn't work too well, and it didn't work there too well for Stephen Larkamp.
Just too greedy with the throttle. You hear him try and pick it up and pushes him wide, and yeah, bit of a prang into the wall for him. Definitely going to be a slow lap and potentially even end his race with terminal damage. So that was an entertaining moment, and attrition definitely playing its part, because 25 started, only 22 still running, and that includes Van der Sant after his early pit stop.
That's another free spot for Josh Tin. He's now up 11 spots. So fantastic job for him. Just got to keep picking him off.
Bombers back to pit lane in the Ascari Autosport machine. Larkamp finally finds his way as well. You'll see him rolling in behind the 37. Has lost about 17 seconds this lap trying to bring the 62 back towards pit lane. Check in with your race leaders, because as Phil Kraus winds out of turn 7 and begins his way to power up towards the S's, it's 1.2 and it is starting to build. Last time around it's only 6,000ths that split these two drivers, but when the competition is this strong between these two, the margins are always going to be fine.
And I'm seeing here just in the data, we've got literally only less than a tenth of a second difference over a 10-lap average between Phil and John. So definitely they're pushing each other, pushing the pace, which is good for the competition, and it won't be good for their tires, but we'll see what they can do here. The pit strategy is going to be super important. Phil, I want to say he's got a little bit of an advantage here. He doesn't have to box early, but one thing he'll definitely have to do is respond to John as soon as he sees that John boxes, because even a lap of extra time here on the alternate tire can mean the difference between being ahead on track position and being behind. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out here.
Another one for Josh Chin, but Tyler Graf was trying to fight it back, and whoa, that is a moment that both drivers will be looking to put in the pass. Change of suit required for Josh Chin at the end of this race, that is for sure. Great battle brewing until then, and you just see, look at the line that Josh Chin takes, just so much more confident, willing to use more of the curb on that left-hand side. I think Betafer has made a mistake this lap because he's dropped to now almost 2 full seconds away, and if you give Kraus an opportunity to brake, he's going to not need any second invitation. I'll pose the question to you, Adam. If you're Connor Harrington, you're sitting on the primary compound of tires, you've gone into lap 17 and you're only 6 seconds away from the leader. Do you come in now and box for the alternates?
If I'm Connor, I'm sending his Team Talent IndyCar setup to satellite racing. But in this race, what I'm going to be doing is running these primary tires as long as I can. I want to run the alternate tires for the rest of the race, but I want to have those stints be as short as possible, which gives me the greatest amount of flexibility to decide when I want to box and when I want to stay out. So running as long as possible on these primary tires, and I think everyone that put on the primaries to start the race is going to want to do the same thing. And
Harrison on push to pass. Sorry to cut you off, but that's the first one that he's burned. A lot of the drivers at the front have been very reluctant to use their push to passes so far, and in a race where it's not fuel limited, I was a little bit surprised to see that. Now, is Carrington going left? I just think at this point maybe trying to pick up the pace, and seeing that Betafer is starting to struggle with that gap now going above 2 full seconds. Harrington maybe not thinking that he's going to challenge the man of Lionheart in 2022, but at the very least get valuable points in that battle for second in the championship.
Yeah, this is a really important stint for anyone on the primary tires to really make sure that they maximize the value of the primaries, which is at the end of the stint. The primary tires last a long time, and they're the fastest with, I don't know, maybe a third of the tank left, and it gets progressively faster. So really, really pushing on these tires here is obviously Connor's strategy and the smart thing to do. Doesn't surprise me at all that he burned a push to pass there down the back straight, which, because of the time in the race, also suggests they're very quickly going to be boxing here for probably alternate tires.
On board with Benzi, he almost ran into the back of Kinsella down the hill, and, well, Connor Harrington with the number 44. It's no surprise that he's looking to go hammer time right before the end of this cycle. Remember, 53-lap race, fuel window anywhere from 18 to 20 laps, so it means you get one shorter stint. Only Alex Van der Sant electing to take that call. We have seen the likes of Taylor and Bombers back already pit. Benzi is showing the value of the primary tires on the long run, because Kinsella is struggling more and more as they burn more of the rubber off the tires. Benzi coming into his own.
Yeah, really good job here by Benzi to stay up with the top 5 in Kinsella and Marquez. It'll be interesting if he decides to box early, put on a set of alternate tires, and really try to undercut these two to get some track position.
If you take a look at the track map, you can also see it is starting to splinter up. Yes, you've got your battle packs, but we're kind of at that point where you can pit and you're likely, for the most part, to find a little bit of clean air, so gambles may be well and truly worth it. Delta is around 30 plus seconds here, a little bit more, of course, when you factor in slightly weirder pit entry compared to the regular lap that you've got. This is when you'd expect drivers to make their calls, to dive down to the safety of pit lane. Splintering up behind Bensi with Kraus, Malechka, and Chin now in a bit of no man's land. Chin very much, like I said, in the hunt for fifth, but no takers to pit lane as we tick over to lap 20.
Looks like track temperature has dropped about another 3 degrees since the start of the race as we cross over 4 o'clock local. So that's only going to get it lower, and anyone that started on those primary tires to start who will flip to an alternate tire are going to be in a really handy spot because they're going to be able to run a lot harder and not have to worry about hurting those alternate tires as much.
Here comes the team race first car. Bensi down the inside, and Kinsella left room, I think realized where his tires were, and with pit stops expected, if not this lap, the next lap by for Kinsella, a strong opening run on this tires to put himself in a potential chance of a strong top 5 finish here with this season winding down. 4 races left to go after this one, and your race leader becomes the first at the front to dive to pit lane. Badefer will follow him in behind, but here comes the flurry onto pit road.
It looks like the top 3 are all in. It'll be interesting to see what tires they flip to, whether or not Phil decides he wants to stay on the alternate tire and try to maintain that gap, or if he decides to do something a little different and take that sacrifice stint in the middle.
Andrew Kinsella is electing to try and go a little bit longer on this run. I'm not sure exactly what the wisdom in that call is, but I guess we'll find out. Not going to be a race off of pit road, but Phil Kraus will lead them. Behind him, Badefer. Harrington over to the alternate compound of tires, just waiting for the timing screen to update. Crucially, Badefer as well as Phil Kraus, I think, staying on the alternate compound of tire, Adam.
Yeah, that's what I see too. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, Phil and John both opting to maintain the track position here on the second stint of the race. That'll put them in tough if Connor's able to really grab a little bit more track position and time on them, because he's going to be able to roll with the alternate tire for the last stint where they still have to run the primary. So Connor's, not going to lie, Connor's sitting in the catbird seat right here if he's able to drag up a little bit closer to John and Phil.
As you can see on the left side, it's the same little glitch that we've been running into as of late. Kraus is on the primary, but visually on the car it's showing as the alternate. So Kraus satisfying the requirement to run these black compound of tires. It'll be interesting to see if he elects to stay on them to the end of this race. Andrew Kinsella continues to run long. I'm still trying to figure out what the strategy call is here, because there's no way you can make it on a one-stop strategy.
No, for sure you can't, because car needs a little bit more fuel than just another 60 liters. My only thinking is that maybe he's thinking that the clean air here is worth the pain. Also, maybe that just being able to have a little bit fresher tire in the second stint and the third stint is the way to go. He hasn't burned any push to pass though, so he's obviously trying to think about how his pace will look towards the end of the race, which we'll have to see how that plays out too.
Badefer made a mistake that last time by, lost 1.2 to Kraus and 1.6 almost to Harrington, and so the gap between Kraus and Badefer up to 4 seconds as Kinsella finally makes his trip to pit lane. All cars on track have indeed dived down to the safety of the lane. Now it's very much that fight for second between Harrington and Badefer, but it is a familiar face that leads at the front once more in Lionheart competition. It's been the year of Phil Kraus for the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, and he's looking on course to add yet another victory to what is going to be a storied year, a 12th win for the driver in his career. We're watching the MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries, live on RaceSpot TV. Don't go anywhere, the run to the checkered flag coming up next.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to the tail end of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. We're live from the Alabama roller coaster for round 18. The MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined for the very first time today in the RaceSpot TV commentary booth by the one and only Adam Crane. And Adam, it's been a fascinating race so far. Yes, Phil Krause is running away at the front and doing Phil Krause things, but it's been going back and forth in the last few laps. It's come down at the front with 3 cars split by 4 seconds, and there's fighting up and down through the field.
The Alabama roller coaster doesn't fail to deliver. We've got strategy all over the place with cars on very different strategies, some staying out long, some boxing early. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out here over the remainder of the race.
We're watching this fight just behind 5th spot. Caleb Benzie has been able to break away from the likes of Andrew Kinsella, who is on the primary compound of tyre. Van der Sant behind him on the alternate, and plenty of mix-ups up and down through the field. But really, I think one of the stories of today is after joining the race late and not getting a lap time in qualifying, Joshua Chin is up 15 positions and now looking to get 7th away from Andrew Marquez.
Yeah, Joshua Chin has done a fantastic job here. He's got easily one of the best drives here with what appears to be, actually, he's got the 6th best 20-lap average, so he's definitely a top 5 car. He just needs a little bit more track position here. Let's see if we can get him over the next couple stints.
I think if he gets past Marquez, then the question is how quickly can he get past the Power Slide duo. I don't want to discount his chance of getting past Marquez, but then you look up the road to Benzie. That will be the next target for the private label Team Hype. Get 3 cars inside of the top 5. Just watch how calm Chin is as well. It's the smoothness that you don't always expect at tracks like this, where it's so physical, so demanding, but so calculated, so smooth. Chin not just fast, but minding the tires as well.
Yeah, he's going to be in a very good spot again. It looks like he's on the primary compound tire, which is an interesting choice. I would have thought that he would have flipped to the alternate tire here to try to get a little bit more track position. Unfortunately, one of the bad parts about his job so far is that he's burned through almost all of his push to pass. He's on it now, but he's only got 1 push to pass here for the remainder of the race. So it'll be interesting how well he's able to move through the rest of the field with so few push to pass remaining.
Make them count when you can, though, I guess. Yeah, it's been a race where we've seen sparse usage of that overtake button as it will. Left side of the screen, you see those numbers. I mean, inside of the top 10, outside of Chin and Malechka, at most you're seeing one usage. 6 drivers in the top 10 have not touched the button at all, which again does shock me because we are not fuel limited for this race.
Not at all. Realistically speaking, Josh only can get up to P4 unless for some reason a full course yellow gets called, which to my understanding only happens at a couple places. But P4 is probably as good as he can do with that position being only another 5 seconds up the road. So hopefully Josh is able to get up definitely here into the top 5, I think is a possibility. But he'll be hard done by here to try to get a little bit more than that.
Let's talk a little bit about our MOZA Racing driver profile for today. Matt Taylor fighting for championships in 2 of the Lionheart sanctioned competitions. In the Lionheart Speedway Series on Monday, but of course in the Lionheart Retro Series on Thursday nights as well. He's not had the worst runs in 2022 in the IndyCar Series, as in front of him Matthias Kraus and Marquez have swapped around. But strength on road courses seems to be where Taylor seems to quietly find speed. And I think the thing that always impresses me, Adam, is the adaptability, because the Stellara IR18, the Dallara DW12, and the Lotus 79, the only thing they really have in common is the fact that they're open-wheel cars.
Yeah, the IndyCar is, by all accounts, a beast on its own, but being able to competently drive across different open-wheel cars is a skill unto itself, and so it's great to see someone like Matt competing at a high level in the IndyCar across all 3 different cars.
Indeed, and he's up a position so far behind Malechka and Marquez. Marquez seems to be on a bit of a slide backwards on these primary compound of tires. We'll see if that flip-flops around. Front of the field with the alternate tires, Barber is making them pay. 1.5 seconds splits him from Phil Kraus. Remember when they exited pit lane, the gap hovering just over 4 full seconds. And what mindset are you in if you're Phil Kraus? With traffic in front of you, a hard charger behind, but knowing, Adam, the tires will swing back in your direction in the final stint of the race.
So unlike John with that little mistake he made to lose a couple seconds there, Phil's goal here is just to make sure that he doesn't lose any time. He doesn't make it easy, doesn't give up any free seconds or tenths to John, and that he makes him work for it. In the ideal, Phil's thinking, man, just stay behind me, and then when the tires flip around, I'll be able to sail clear to the end. But John's thinking, got to push here, and in the ideal, get around Phil, make him sweat a little bit behind, try to get that track position back.
Again, you see from these contenders just how much of that curb they're using. The confidence that comes with experience in any car, let alone just this Stellara IR18 beta for part of the Alpine Stars geodesic racing team that competes from prototypes to touring cars, to everything in between as well. Well and truly past the halfway mark of this race as well, by the way, so we're at that point where maybe drivers starting to fatigue a little bit, maybe starting to make a few more mistakes. Bradley Sexton trying to take advantage of that and go on the offense down into turn 7, but realistically, if you're not alongside, it's not really a passing opportunity.
Yeah, mentally this track is just so draining, and as you make more and more mental mistakes, typically the thing that pays for it most are the tires, and by the end of the stint, they're pretty uncompromising in how little work they want to do for you. So really important that you try to maintain focus. You take your little mental breaks where you can down the front straight, and just take a deep breath, refocus, and try to make as few mistakes as possible and keep those tires under you for as long as you can.
Beta for using a push to pass to try and bring the gap down below a second, but you talk about, not being able to take a break, and that's why when we talk about endurance racing, coming up to another one of the iRacing special events this weekend, the 2022 iRacing Petit Le Mans powered by VCO. Doing a 4-hour stint at a track in the French countryside is very different to doing 4 hours at Road Atlanta or even at the Nürburgring, the Green Hell, the 24-hour loop, because you don't get those opportunities at the tighter, twistier courses to relax in the same way that you do cruising down the Mulsanne doing 300 kilometers an hour.
No, Le Mans is definitely a track that you want to drive if you're a little bit sleep deprived. It'll put you to sleep in some cases, but as a test track, it's fantastic. But if you're looking for for a track that's really going to get your heart pounding and get you in a position where you're having difficulty keeping your arms up, then something like Road Atlanta or Barber is where you want to be. It's literally nonstop, and the way that the car responds to making mistakes because of your becoming lazy with inputs or just missing your brake marker or adding a little bit too much wheel just really makes you pay, and you end up just compounding your issues later on in the race.
Palmer's back having some issues in his Ascari Autosport number 37 with Brian Beard and Mitchell Riggs now behind and trying to pounce, and Beard will throw it down the inside in the bright yellow machine and just about gets it stopped in time, slides his way forward into 15th spot. Meanwhile, Joshua Chin talks about his lack of push to passes so far, but he's on the back of Alexander Van der Zandt, who is due for his final pit stop of the race in maybe just a couple of laps time, and of course will switch tire compounds as well. But then it releases Joshua Chin to go forth and attack Andrew Kinsella and then hunt down Caleb Bensi.
And just as you say it, that's the commentator's blessing, I guess we'll call it. But Josh Chin here absolutely released. He's going to be able to have a little bit more clean air, be able to use his pace, which he's demonstrated so far. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to get up close to Alex, or my fellow Canadian, Andrew, I should say, and what he's able to do from here, if he's able to make any kind of impression on Caleb Bensi.
Some smoke there for one car. That was a nasty sound that came out of Betafer's car as he ran over the curbs just a little bit wide. Van der Zandt, no issues on pit lane. Van der Zandt is also very quick at dropping the clutch and releasing in a smooth manner. It's what helped him to victory at Watkins Glen earlier this year, getting in front of the one and only Phil Kraus. And Betafer is coming in very, very early. I think the call for him was, let's push 10 tenths on this set of red tires and then switch to the more durable, longer lasting primaries and run to the end of the race.
Absolutely, and don't look now, but it looks like Phil might be coming up on a little bit of traffic here beyond probably this lap, or maybe the start of the next one. He's probably going to get into this traffic here, and that'll slow Phil down a bit. And no doubt that's what John's thinking, that he'll be able to capitalize on by boxing a little bit early, maybe trying to get some clean air, and looks like he's folded in behind Andrew Kinsella, so getting these tires up to temperature, it's a lot harder when you're trailing behind a car, and you need to get around them for sure.
And, crucially, he's come out in front, I think, of Joshua Chin. I think this is now going to be an interesting scenario, how the two of them elect to play this situation amongst the two of them, because Chin's still got some ways to go before he's due to roll down pit lane. Now, it would not be a race on race spot in an IndyCar without some sort of drama on pit lane. However, it is not Joshua Chin or Jason Brophy in the private label team hypes that brings us today's pit lane drama. Instead, it's brought to you by Powerslide Motorsports as Robert Malechka, hello to the wall.
That is pain right there. Again, super easy to do with the pit entry the way that it is. It invites you to carry so much speed. And because of the way the track falls away down towards the inside, it's really, really difficult to get the braking right. And as you can see, someone as skilled as RM3 just made that mistake, and sure enough, should be the race over for him, unfortunately.
See, you're trying to be fair and biased. I'm just trying to be mean. I love Rob, but it's always fun pushing his buttons a little bit. And I do think that maybe Betafer is really now. We saw him run wide once, and you'll see him here again, run wide again behind Kinsella. Feeling a little bit more dirty air than maybe he's done since the start of this race, yes, but he's also trying to feel out what the black primary compound of tires are doing. And right now, I don't think this is trending the way that Betafer was hoping for.
No, not at all. You can tell that John's pushing really hard, because this is the window where he has an opportunity to really make an impression on Phil's lead and try to get track position in the lead. As he runs wide there again, just a little bit, just pushing really hard, trying to maximize that run through the backstreet chicane. But it's just the dirty air is really, really, really tough, especially as you're trying to bring those tires up to temperature. So he'll have to sit back here, try to make another move, but probably down into Charlotte's Web here again.
See what the lap time will be this time by. It was 109.7 for Kinsella last time by. Phil Kraus with a 109.2 the latest time around. And as we wait for the times to update, it's it's not that much better if we're being completely honest. So not the ideal situation, and now the traffic that Baderfer maybe ducked out of, it comes back to bite. To quote the great John Hindorf, the traffic will give and the traffic would take. It will equalize out eventually for everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a matter of maybe half a second difference between John being able to get out ahead of Andrew and not having to worry about burning a push to pass, which he just did there to try to get around Andrew. And it's more or less clear sailing.
Oh! Now, Matt Taylor, we were singing his praises about adaptability, but he's lost the front wing, and I have a feeling that car has got a little bit more damage than just the shed bodywork, as he's now got to go the entirety of the length around Barber to get back to pit lane.
Yeah, that's mega painful, losing the car there. Like you said, having to drive the whole lap without a front wing or damage to either one of the four corners is just really just sucks the life. Another grass cocktail.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice line there. You never know, this is what, your second time doing some commentary. Just again on the power, too greedy, runs out wide, and like you say, hoping for the cocktail, but unfortunately, big issue there. Mitchell Riggs now the next one to have an issue, this time over the top through the S's. We'll grab a look at what happened to him, but Baderfer has finally released himself from Kinsella. Yes, he's got some traffic, but this is when the hard work begins.
Yeah, he's going to have to get around that lap car ahead of him. That's Caleb Benzie ahead of him, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see how much exactly John's taken out of those tires and what kind of impression he can make on a Phil's lead. Phil has to be feeling good about where he is.
Harrington.
Yeah, Connor here.
Now, is this a response to the pace of Baderfer and the opportunity to leapfrog him?
100%, I'd say that'd be exactly what Connor's thinking about, knowing that John was kind of trapped behind Andrew there for a little bit.
So here we go. Through the final corner for the Alpine Stars geodesic black and gold. Harrington up on the jacks for the final time, and you can see as he drops, Baderfer already released, will be able to re-inherit second position net on track, and if anything, I have a feeling that gap has actually grown.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure what happened on the in-lap there with Connor, or if it was just a slower stop, but we'll have to see how John is able to roll here with these now very much up to temperature tires. That's got to give Phil a little bit of a pause here, because the gap between Phil and Connor was only, I think, about 5 seconds. So it'll be, as we see Chin, no!
Pit lane issues, and Joshua Chin, name a more iconic combination. Oh, he's done it. He's given us some entertainment, and unfortunately for Joshua Chin, I get the sense that is likely the end of his day.
That is a large oof size. I feel for Josh so much. Such a good run there. Just pit exit. It's just, you push that little bit too hard. There's just no temperature in the front tires.
And he did it.
Roll it.
He did it right in front of Jason Brophy as well, which is just like the most fitting thing in the world. You could see the agonizing slide into the wall. Joshua Chin indeed needed the toe to get back to pit lane. It was a great run while it lasted.
I have so many of those shirts, and I want none of them, so I feel bad for Josh, but one of those lessons you got to learn, that the roller coaster in Alabama does bite, and sometimes it's a ride you don't want, but it's a ride you got.
Matthias Kraus gets passed by Connor Harrington after Harrington had dived down to pit lane. Now he finds himself about 4.5 back from Baderfer, so I would go as far as to wager that with short time, Baderfer might even be able to hang on here. Now, wait and see when Phil Kraus elects to roll to pit lane, but he'll of course go back over to the alternate softer compound of tires. With the track conditions very much having dropped off, we started at 46 degrees in qualifying track temperature. It's down to 38 degrees as we tick into the evening here in Alabama.
Still pretty windy, but as you said, that track temperature continues to fall now. It just ticked down to 37 degrees Celsius. Prime alternate tire weather, or at least as much as it's going to get over the course of this race. It is only going to get cooler, but you can see someone like Phil, who's on the primary tire, ticking in some really, really good lap times here now. He's well and truly in control of this race moving forward.
Is using the push to pass as well. Important. Whoa, look at that on the ragged edge. Now, does he go stage left and dive to pit lane? Extends at least one more lap. Again, just a reminder, even though it shows the alternates on the side of his car, he is indeed on the primary compound of tire as he ticks over to 13 laps left to play. I mean, you can speak to the consistency required to achieve a streak that Kraus has been able to do in 2022. It's that type of momentum when you can do no wrong.
No, it's incredibly difficult to drive it at a high level, like what you see Phil doing over the course of a whole season, and even extending into the tail end of last year, week in and week out, race event after race event, with some of the toughest competition in iRacing, let alone on the IndyCar, and across a variety of different circuits that require a ton of different skill between large ovals, short ovals, road courses. So it's really impressive to see Phil driving at such a high level, and it's something that everyone should really take note of and know that, hey, he's the king of Lionheart, and people are going to have to step up their games if they're going to want to try to beat him as he now enters the pits for his final stop.
So he will indeed dive to pit lane, and I think the thing that I find most intriguing is the fact that it's not the first time that Phil Kraus has stolen a championship away from Adam Blocker. It of course happened with the Indy Elite Series a couple of years ago, but this year Kraus and Blocker have put aside the competitive differences to team up in the V8 Supercars Online Championship, including a run at their Bathurst 1000, the greatest Australian sim race there is. So at least when there's competition, they can at least have mutual respect for one another. We'll see if it's going to be close with Betafer, but we're not really expecting it to be so, as Kraus, with the shortest pit stop of them all, will drop and roll and emerge behind one of the Ascari Autosport machines. It's going to be just under, I think, 4 seconds by the time it works its way through, but of course Kraus will be going as fast as he needs to control the tempo of this race.
Yeah, and that's essentially what Phil's bought himself, is the ability to control the pace and really just focus on hitting his marks, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes, keeping the tires under him. He's going to be able to have some more time that he can burn and manage traffic, and maybe even save some of those push to passes to go for fastest lap at the end of the race.
So Andrew Kinsella, of course, now becomes one of the final cars yet to box, along with Matthias Kraus and Jason Brophy, so expect them to come down. But Andrew Kinsella is on lap 19, went 22 in the first cycle of this race, so hypothetically could have an 8-lap or so final stint. Just trying to figure out what that will buy him and exactly where he's gonna cycle out in this one, because he's not limited by the amount of fuel going into that car anymore in terms of pit stop time. It's now limited by tires.
Yeah, I'm not sure if 8 laps is really enough on the alternate tires to really maximize their value. So I think this play by Andrew is definitely just about trying to capture some clean air and get the pace of the car and the pace that he's got in the car working for him as much as he can.
Remember, he started in 7th or so. I think that's likely looking like the best he's going to finish as it runs right now. Although having said that, sorry, I forgot Matthias Kraus and Brophy are yet to pit, so hypothetically he might still be in with a top 6 shout as we near 10 laps to go. And of course after this, the challenge, the diverse nature of American open wheel racing continues to present itself, because just 7 days from today, Adam, we're back racing, this time on a short track at the Milwaukee Mile.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you could have 2 different tracks here back to back. So Milwaukee's definitely one of the favorite tracks oval-wise that you can run in the IndyCar. One of the oldest tracks. I think it's the oldest track in North America. So it'll be, again, challenging for these drivers to go from a fast, flowy road course to a fast oval track like Milwaukee that's definitely got so much character.
Here comes Kinsella. I think Milwaukee might be one of the oldest tracks, period, in the world. So much history, going back to when it was a dirt track rather than an asphalt facility. Looking forward to that. Of course, after that, then Kansas, Phillip Island, and then the double point showdown. Of course, December 11th, this weekend race should be a lot of fun to close things out at a layout, at a configuration that's now immortalized here in iRacing. And Kinsella has emerged in 5th position, so I maybe misjudged the pit delta very slightly, but with 10 to go, I'm not sure he's got enough time to really catch Caleb Bensey, who is also on the alternate tires.
No, definitely a good play there by Andrew to run long. Got to try to do something a little bit different than your competitors in order to not exactly follow in their wheel tracks. So really good job by Andrew to keep the pace up, and looks like, as you said, he's going to be firmly in place here with a top 5 finish.
And this is where we were kind of, salivating at the potential battle. Phil Kraus, fastest lap of the race, 107.725. When we say he's the fastest man in the series, half a second faster than the next fastest lap, and there are only a handful of drivers that are in the 108s, let alone the 107s. But on board with Connor Harrington on the primary compound of tires, or rather the alternate compound of tires, hunting down Betafer on the primary compound. And Betafer has gone on the tires earlier, so he's worn through them a little bit more. Harrington has got to pounce, and pounce soon.
Yeah, Connor's definitely got the bit between his teeth here. Got to make up time with only 9 laps here to go, so got to get close, try to force a mistake, try to get John to burn some of his resources, either tires or push to pass or both. So these next 3 or 4 laps here are going to be absolutely critical to whether or not Connor has any kind of shot at John.
Love this camera shot. You just see the hand movement, how smooth you are, how tentative at times you have to be as well. And for example, this penultimate corner, it's about setting up the final corner. A little bit more patient from Harrington compared to some of the issues that we've seen for drivers earlier on through the day. And now finally we're starting to see the screws turn loose as push-to-passes finally start to get used, and it's not really too much of a fight going on inside of the top 10 at this point, but there's still this ding-dong battle with Tyler Graf in front of Brian Beard, Adam Fraser and Kite Bommersback, the final cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, this group here is definitely fighting for sheep stations, as they would say in Australia.
Sheep stations.
Really, sheep stations. Yes.
Interesting.
That's a true statement.
It's a true Australianism.
True Australianism. Yes. You can quote me on that one. But yeah, this group here definitely wants to. I mean, there's a top 10 spot here on offer for anyone that can really just go ahead and grab it. So. These guys are definitely going to be fighting here over the last 7 or 8 laps.
Van der Sande and Kraus fighting, and Van der Sande on extremely old tires is struggling. I think Jason Brophy might have had an issue of his own. Van der Sande fights back in towards turn 7, and that's brave and bold, but Kraus is having none of it. Elects to fight side by side until Van der Sande could do no longer. And now Kraus finds himself up into 6th spot.
Really good racing there by both of them, affording each other a lot of space. Even Alex having a little bit of an understeer issue there, sort of middle of 7, but fantastic job not to have a much larger incident, and amazing pass there by Matthias to get through.
Have a look at what happened then to Jason Brophy, and it's this tricky spot. Up and down you go, and well, technically, can we claim this is a pit lane issue? Because I mean, he definitely heads towards the direction of pit entry, although definitely not intentional for the yellow private label team hype car.
I think for anyone that likes making fun of Jason Brophy for his pit entries, we'll have to just call it an attempted pit entry. So,
unintended pit entry. How about
unintended pit entry? Yes, I'll take that for 500, Alex. But a little bit of an unfortunate mistake there for Brophy, but I don't think it affected his ultimate position too much.
Good point from someone in the chat. Instead of calling it push to pass, why not call it boost/overtake? I agree, and that's why I always make the point. It's not just push to pass, but at a track like this where the straights are so short, you can use it in a defensive way, in very intriguing defensive ways as well. I say that. I would still be very supportive, Adam, if we got the proper second base system that IndyCar runs for the overtakes.
Yeah, I think any time that you can have something replicated in the sim as being realistic, that's going to be probably the preferred way of operating. But it would definitely make things more interesting because we'd have more flexibility for attacking or defending, like you said. And it would make managing your push to pass perhaps a little bit more interesting as well, because you couldn't really ever use it as much as we wanted to for longer straights. You'd be using it simply for acceleration purposes at the corners. So it would add quite a bit to the sim and to the car. So we'll have to cross our fingers to see if iRacing's able to implement it, though from what I hear, it's not exactly a high priority, unfortunately.
Well, and the other thing I would say as well, right, is it then starts to factor in how do you save your tires. If you're using that overtake straight out of the corners, you are definitely putting a bit more load those staggered rear tires, but so many elements. It's going to be interesting when we get rain on iRacing as well for some of these road course races in this Lionheart IndyCar series. You had a quick look at the push-to-pass numbers as drivers do start to burn through them, but for the most part, haven't really been seeing as much usage compared to some of the previous road course races that we've had this season. And it's a curious stat that we sometimes look at positions gained and positions lost, but in a race where attrition has definitely played its part, Adam, because we started with 25 cars and we're down to 19, only 13 on the lead lap. It's really not been too much movement relatively inside of the top 10.
No, it's always going to be the case that Barber's a technical track that's difficult to pass, so any movement is typically due to mistakes or pit strategy, and usually those mistakes only buy you a couple spots, or in the case of a DNF, as we got one car off the road there.
That's Tyler Graf in the 98, wide through 5, will lose an additional spot to Kite Bomber's back as well. And so it's gone.
My money on a tire cocktail or a grass cocktail there, just on the braking on entry.
I don't know. I don't even think we saw him that wide because it's turn 5 as well. Here we go. Good look. Just over. He overcommits. Left front locks up.
Again, another easy mistake to make. The downhill, just as you roll over the crest, is actually quite bumpy. So if you catch the brakes in the wrong spot, it's easy to lock in inside front, and then you're off to the scene of the accident, or in this case, just off the track.
Yes, off to the scene of the incident, that's for sure. We were talking about, this track maybe not being used as much as others. Definitely think it would be fun to get multi-class racing over here, but even some of the other series within the US, I think it would be fun to get GT3 cars racing here a little bit more regularly. It's just a wonderful facility that does at least get used quite frequently by IndyCar teams for testing, and it's something that obviously plays a big factor to then the success that they have when they return here for competition.
I'd say let's get NASCAR here. It's so fun.
Yes.
Imagine 40 or so NASCAR Cup cars screaming around Barber. That would be fantastic. And I would hate to work for Goodyear though, trying to figure out the best tire compound to run here. So
to be fair, any tire manufacturer where they are the sole tire manufacturer in a series, it's always a lose-lose situation. There is no winning as the sole tire manufacturer, unfortunately. So while Kraus continues to burn the push-to-passes, run away at the front of the field, 1.3 with 3 to go in this battle for second. It's not been easy for Connor Harrington to close, but he's been toiling away, and with a couple of laps, a couple of opportunities, still a couple of push-to-passes in hand, what does he have left to play with in terms of tires?
It'll be interesting here to see just exactly how much he saved. I think he's going to have to rely on John to make a mistake in order to really get close. But as we've seen, John's made a couple of those small mistakes already, especially towards the end of the stints on the alternate tire. So I know he's on the primary this time, so he might be a little bit less likely, but there's also a little less grip. So it'll be interesting to see if John's just going to hold tight here and resist the pressure, or if we might just buckle a little bit.
You say less grip, but again, we've got cooler track conditions, so tires likely to last a little bit longer. Not just a battle for second with 2 left to go, it's the battle for fourth. Kinsella has really... You and I think, both thought that the call to go so short in the final stint was maybe unwise, but he is taking advantage of the rubber that he's got to work with and has brought the gap down to Caleb Bensey to under 0.7 of a second. However, Bensey, as he gets on the button, now has 6 push-to-passes left to play with after this one. Kinsella only has 3.
Yeah, Kinsella's going to be in tough here trying to get around Bensey with so few push-to-pass. He's going to have to force Bensey to use a few here, which it does look like Bensey's doing. But even still, Kinsella a little bit more than 0.2 of a second faster that previous time by. So just got to, again, hope for pressure to cause a little bit of a mistake. You can see Bensey again on the push to pass, so looks like the pressure's on for P4.
They know they've got a lap and a half, and that's it for Bensey to try and grab more valuable points. Has been in a bit of a mid-season slump in some ways, involved in incidents, but starting to show that form that impressed so many at the start of this year. Phil Krause has already started the final lap of this race, and while his teammate Connor Harrington works to try and close the Betafer, but with time running out, I mean, you run out of words, you run out of superlatives to describe a season like this.
Take a bow, Philip Kraus. I mean, another one looks like going to be in the books, knock on wood, with only a couple corners left to go here. Absolutely fantastic drive again, top to bottom, qualifying, race, pit stop strategy. What more can you say about Phil Kraus?
It's his 12th win in just 28 career starts in this Lionheart IndyCar Series. The stretch of podiums continues. Phil Kraus builds a house at the Barber Motorsports Park, winning the MOZA Racing Grand Prix of Barber, presented by Gomez Sim Industries. It's going to be a 12-second margin to John Badefer, but he does hold on in the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing number 67 in front of Connor Harrington, who grabs valuable points in that battle for second in the championship. Still excitement though as Kinsella continues to search for a way to get past in this fight for fourth that runs its way through the final sequence of corners. But time runs out for the Canadian, and Caleb Bensi will hold on to a well-deserved fourth place finish in front of a series veteran in Andrew Kinsella. What a way to join the RaceBot TV commentary box for your very first race. Plenty of action, plenty of chaos, a little bit of everything here today, Adam.
No, an amazing race by everyone. Amazing job by all the private label Team Hype guys. John to finish P2. Some different strategies, both in terms of tires and fuels. So fantastic job by everyone, and a great race that we witnessed here today.
A lot of fun, and it is indeed a celebratory mood, I'm sure, for the private label Team Hype, with two drivers on the podium continuing to ramp forward, not just on their charge to the Drivers' Championship with that number 19, but on their way to back-to-back team championships as well. Slightly frustrated, I'm sure, will be Joshua Chin, who may not have appreciated the fun that Adam and myself were poking his way, but it was well-deserved after making the issue that saw him crash on pit exit. A chance to run you down through your SimRace 24/7 unofficial race results after the 53 laps at this Barber Motorsports Park. It's just the fourth race in series history. Adam Blocker's record, at least for margin of victory, will hold here. Phil Kraus only 13 seconds clear of John Badefer in the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing number 67. Connor Harrington grabs yet another podium to add to his Lionheart legacy in front of Caleb Bensi, who manages to survive the onslaught at the end from Andrew Kinsella, who does actually find his way up a couple of spots. Alexander Van der Sant, well, he had to fight back, that's for sure, but he's able to grab 7th at the end of the day in front of Andrew Marquez, who struggled in the early stages. Bradley Sexton up 5, Brian Beard up 6. Great finishes for the two of them in the Synergy Motorsport stable. Adam Fraser, Tyler Graf, and Kite Bommersbach, the final cars on the lead lap. Just 13 able to hold on to that lead lap marker. Jason Brophy sliding to 14th in terms of the issue late in the day, but still 4 positions gained for him in front of Mitchell Riggs, Alex Guyon, Joe Branch, and Paul Jenkins. Disappointment for the likes of Stefan Larkamp and Joshua Chin, who struggled through the course of the race, with the likes of Matt Taylor, Robert Malechka, Lionel Kalisto, Matt Houston, and Tony Schowen bringing up the rest of the 25 cars that gambled at the start here today. Not playing out well for everyone, that is for sure. It will lead us into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And while we wait for HyperX victory lane to be populated by the one and only Phil Kraus, will work in reverse order through the podium, and will join Connor Harrington, who steps on that third step of the podium. Connor, interesting start at the race when you gambled on tire strategy. Did the race play out as you expected?
Yeah, almost. We almost got John there at the end. I just got really held up kind of in that phase after the second stop by a couple of guys on some goofy strategies. We almost got there. I think if I'd had another lap or two, I think we would have been close. But finally back on the podium. It seems like it's been a while. It's been a pretty bad run of luck that we've had here lately. So glad to just get a race completed and get on the podium.
I mean, in terms of the strategy call, I did kind of want to ask about that. With the, we had a big fuel window today. How does that play with the reduced fuel tank that we have, and how you play with the 2 tire compounds?
Yeah, the fuel window led itself to to a lot of different strategy options. I know there were a couple guys who were doing 2 sets of primary tires, doing one set of primaries and 2 reds. So we looked at it from the standpoint of go long on the first stint, and then hopefully not get held up, and just hopefully be able to take the red tires, have some clean track, and make some good pace. And we were able to do that for the most part. Once John and Phil got away from us there at the beginning, we were just trying to turn good laps that were on pace with them as their reds were falling away, and it almost worked.
Milwaukee, Kansas, Phillip Island, and Auto Club. 4 races left to go, and as you admitted, what's been a difficult 2022. What's your favorite race looking forward as we look to wind out the year?
I think Auto Club obviously will be really fun in this car. It always is. But we're just looking to put together last 4 really strong races, get a team championship. Obviously, Phil has had an incredible season that will probably never ever be touched. I know we said that after Adam's season last year, but what Phil's putting together is really special. And we're just looking to have really good results, get our team championship out of the way, and everybody at Private Label, we're gearing up for some endurance racing too. So it'll be a busy winter for us, but we're excited to be on Race Spot for all these, and we're just really excited to get back out there.
Connor Harrington back on the podium, and we slide upwards to second. John Bader were able to hold on in the closing stages. How worried were you there, John, as your tires were giving up and Connor was closing in the rearview mirrors?
I was a little worried. He was definitely cutting away at my gap by about a second early on the stint, but I think it kind of leveled out, and I felt more comfortable on the prime tires once we were deeper into the stint. So overall, I was just trying to keep it steady, and I knew if he got in my dirty air, it'd be really hard to kind of close that last 8 tenths or so. So I wasn't too concerned.
So 2 races, 2 podiums. After this though, we've got the first oval coming up as we go to Milwaukee. How are you feeling 7 days from today as we get ready to go to a short track?
I'm excited. Milwaukee is one of my favorite tracks with this car. Hoping to take it one more step up the podium.
I like the sound of that. In terms though of the challenge of adapting, I'm curious what it's been like for you, joining the series midway through the season.
Yeah, it's a little tough being solo. Phil and Connor were kind of able to split strategy there, and I pit early just to kind of try something different and maybe put them under pressure. So didn't work out, but overall it's been a lot of fun, and the racing's been really good too. So looking forward to the next one.
John Bader has been a fun addition to this Lionheart IndyCar series in 2022, but while he tried, he could not stop the momentum train that is Phil Kraus. Phil, you join us yet again in what's been a fantastic year, but talk to us about the challenge of working through this track and the lap traffic that you indeed had to deal with.
Yeah, it's nice to build another bit of real estate this time in Alabama, but the track, you're racing the track, and it's always really difficult to put a lap together around here. I don't think John or I really put the best lap we could have put forward in quali. I think he lost a bit more than I did, judging off of Monday and Tuesday, but I was lucky to squeak out pole there, because as you saw from the first stint, it was so hard to overtake that I pretty much just had to make sure I didn't make any mistakes, and I knew that he wouldn't really have a chance to get by me unless I did trip up and make a mistake. But the second stint at the end, it was a bit interesting because John pit early, and I think I was stuck behind Tyler, and I was getting a little bit impatient behind him because I knew that John had pit, and I wasn't sure if he was going quicker or slower than me, so did a bit of a send on him. I'm lucky he gave me the room, because if he hadn't, I would have bashed him right off the track. So sorry to Tyler for that, but all in all, really good race.
It doesn't sound like the only bit of drama between a private label Team Hype car and Tyler Graf today. As we look to round out the season, Milwaukee, Kansas, Phillip Island, and Auto Club, of course, still to come. How busy are you going to be for the rest of the year with, basically one hand on the championship, just waiting to be crowned?
We've at Private Label Team Hype, we have Ivra starting back up, and other than that, I don't really have anything going on. Obviously, Open Wheel is coming up soon as well, so gonna have to put some energy into that. But yeah, looking forward to racing at Pagil Island, and Milwaukee is usually a fun track to drive. I think it should be good for racing as well. I haven't really driven it in a fixed setup scenario, so we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, looking forward to the last few races, hoping to continue stacking podiums on podiums and seeing if we can get 100% podium rate this season.
That'll be something. It's been a crazy 2022, and now just 4 races are left to go. Great to chat with all of our drivers once again on the podium, but as we round out our post-race coverage, Adam, we look forward to this magic short track, a fan favorite across of the IndyCar community, and one that I know the drivers are very much looking forward to.
Absolutely, it's going to be a fantastic race. 2 different corners at either end of the track. Super high speed, super high commitment, lots of passing opportunities. It'll be one to watch for sure.
That's going to be 7 days from today, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, live on RaceSpot TV. Join us from the Milwaukee Mile for the Next Level Racing Milwaukee 200 presented by Butt Kicker. That, though, unfortunately, is going to be it for us here today. What a race that we had on our return to the Barber Motorsports Park, and hopefully it's not a couple of years before we are back here again. Before we say goodbye, we thank those that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. MOZA Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products, like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, MOZA Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. And Gomez Sim Industries, the makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today, passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. And it's not just them, but so many more that make this possible. To learn more about the Lionheart Racing Series, the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts forward, as well as the partners, head to LionheartRacingSeries.com. While to keep up to date with the latest comings and goings within the paddock, stay tuned on social media. The next time the IndyCar Series is in action will be 7 days from today, but before then we go racing in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Going to be plenty of excitement here live on RaceSpot TV. Cannot wait for your company. For now, it is time to say goodbye. For my co-commentator, for his first time on RaceSpot TV, delighted to be joined by Adam Crane. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, signing off from the Alabama roller coaster, where once again, Phil Krause continues to roll forward on his quest to become champion.